The greatest tragedy is not that we die, it's that we leave behind nothing that lives. Not in buildings, not in books, and worst of all, not in people. You see, wealth isn't just about money. It's about meaning. It's about planting seeds that grow long after you're gone. You and I, we're builders. But the question is, are we building a life that expires with our last breath, or a legacy that echoes for generations? Wealth that outlives you is not an accident, it's an architecture. And today, I want to show you how to become the architect of something truly eternal. When I was a young man, I chased money. I thought if I could just get my hands on enough of it, I'd be set for life. But I quickly discovered that money without wisdom is like building a castle on sand. It might look good for a while, but the first storm will bring it all down. You see, wealth that outlives you doesn't begin with your bank account, it begins with your mind. It begins with the wisdom to know what money is, what it isn't, and what it can become when placed in the hands of someone with vision. There's a reason Solomon said, "Wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her." Wisdom is the compass. It's what keeps you from buying things you don't need to impress people who aren't watching. It's what teaches you the difference between an expense and an investment. When I finally stopped chasing quick gains and started chasing understanding, everything changed. I studied the principles of stewardship, of discipline, of patience. I learned that wealth isn't just earned, it's built. And what you build with wisdom, you don't have to rebuild later. I remember an old farmer who told me once, "Son, if you plant without studying the seasons, you'll starve with a field full of weeds." That stuck with me. So I started reading not just books on money, but books on character, on philosophy, on the laws of nature and the rules of enterprise. I found that the same principles that govern the soil govern the soul. Sow with intention, tend with care, and harvest with gratitude. A man who gains riches without gaining sense is simply decorating his ignorance. But a man who gains wisdom is already wealthy because he's laid the foundation for a legacy. Money can slip through your fingers, but wisdom, once earned, becomes part of who you are. And from that kind of soil, generational wealth can grow. There's a sobering truth that hit me early in life. You cannot give away what you never owned, and you cannot pass down what you never mastered. I used to think leaving money behind would be enough. But then I watched families fall apart over inheritance they didn't understand, wealth squandered in months that took a man a lifetime to build. And I realized if I hadn't truly mastered the habits, the mindset, and the structure that created that wealth, I'd only be handing down tools with no instructions. You can't teach discipline you never practiced. You can't preach patience if you've only lived in haste. So I started asking myself better questions. Not how much can I earn, but, quote, what habits am I passing on? Because wealth without wisdom is a burden disguised as a blessing. If you don't master the stewardship of money, your children will inherit confusion. If you don't learn how to make money serve you, it will rule over those who come after you. One of the greatest disservices we can do to the next generation is handing them a kingdom without the keys. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that mastery starts with the small things how you spend your mornings, how you budget your days, how you treat people when no one's watching. These are the seeds that grow into legacy. I had to discipline myself to read when I wanted to rest, to invest when I wanted to indulge, to plan for the future while others played in the present. Because I knew one day someone else would be holding the results of my decisions. What you master in silence echoes for generations. And when you become a master not just of money, but of the mindset behind it, you give your family more than a financial head start. You give them a blueprint for how to live, how to grow, and how to keep building long after you're gone. There's a reason most people never cross over from potential to prosperity. It's not because they lack ideas, and it's rarely because they lack opportunity. It's because they lack discipline. Discipline is the quiet force that builds empires brick by brick while the world is busy chasing shortcuts. I've seen men with talent brighter than mine end up broke. And I've seen men with very little talent but great discipline build fortunes that last beyond their own lifetime. Because in the end, it's not the richness of your dreams that builds wealth, it's the discipline of your habits. I used to struggle with that myself. I wanted the good life, but I didn't want to pay the price of consistency. I learned the hard way that if you don't choose discipline, you choose regret by default. Regret for the opportunities missed. Regret for the time wasted. Regret for the potential that died on the vine because it was never watered with effort. Discipline is what kept me up when I wanted to sleep. It's what made me save when I wanted to spend, study when I wanted to relax, build when others were busy breaking down. The old saying goes, "He who cannot obey himself will be ruled by the world." That's what discipline is. It's the art of self-governance. Without it, you become a victim of your moods, your impulses, and your distractions. But with it, you become the architect of a life that others only dream about. A man once asked me, "Isn't discipline restrictive?" I said, "No, discipline is freedom. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from fear. Freedom from waking up one day with nothing but memories of what could have been." Discipline is the bridge between being rich for a moment and building wealth that outlives you. It is the quiet, steady hand that writes your legacy long before anyone reads it. Money, like water, will always find a way to flow either into your pocket or out of it. The difference between building lasting wealth and chasing after it like a shadow lies in how you treat every dollar that crosses your hands. Giving every dollar a job is not about being stingy, it's about purpose. When you assign a role to each dollar, whether it's for investment, saving, debt reduction, or essential living expenses, you take control of your financial story. Without this intention, money slips through your fingers unnoticed, vanishing before you realize it. I remember early in my career, I used to earn a decent paycheck, but I was broke by the end of every month. It wasn't that I didn't have enough, it was that I hadn't taught my money where to go. Then I started writing down exactly where every dollar was headed, even the smallest ones. It was a simple act, but it transformed my finances. Suddenly, I wasn't the victim of my spending habits. I was the master of my money. I could see where it was working for me and where it was leaking away. A great thinker once said, "A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went." This is the essence of building wealth that lasts. It's not just about earning, it's about intentional allocation. When you give every dollar a clear purpose, you create a system that can grow. You build a financial machine that works for you even when you sleep, $1 at a time. If you fail to give your money a job, you will watch it disappear like sand slipping through your fingers. But if you give it a role, if you assign it purpose, that same money becomes the seed of your future, the foundation of your legacy, and the architect of wealth that will outlive you. It's simple, but it requires focus, and that focus is a gift you give to your future self. Building wealth that outlives you is much like planting a tree whose shade you may never rest in. It's a lesson in patience and foresight, understanding that true abundance isn't just for today, it's for generations yet to come. Many chase after quick gains, the fruits of immediate gratification, but those who build lasting wealth think beyond the present moment. They invest in seeds that grow tall and strong long after they are gone. I recall a time when I was learning the value of long-term thinking. I met a farmer who spent years planting orchards, knowing he wouldn't enjoy their full bounty himself. His neighbors questioned his wisdom, urging him to plant crops that would feed his family immediately. But he saw something they didn't: a legacy. He trusted that the work he put in today would nurture future generations. That kind of vision is rare, but it's exactly what creates wealth that withstands time. A wise philosopher once noted, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." This reminds us that it's never too late to start thinking about what you leave behind. Whether it's financial investments, knowledge, or values, The act of planting for the future is the truest form of wealth. If we only seek to enjoy wealth for ourselves, we limit its power. But when we plant trees we'll never sit under, we engage in a profound act of generosity and faith. We build something enduring, something that whispers through the ages, reminding those who come after us that we cared enough to prepare the way. True wealth is not merely accumulated. It is sown with intention and harvested by those who follow. Wealth that lasts is not merely about amassing dollars or possessions. It's about enriching the mind and spirit alongside the bank account. I have often seen individuals who accumulate vast fortunes but fail to educate themselves or their heirs about the principles behind that wealth. The result? Their riches fade as quickly as they came. True legacy is built on knowledge, for money without understanding is like a ship without a rudder destined to drift and eventually sink. From my own experience, I remember sitting with a man who had inherited a sizable estate but lost it all within a few years. When I asked him why, he confessed that no one ever taught him how to manage or grow that wealth. His story is a cautionary tale. Wealth is fragile when divorced from wisdom. To truly build something enduring, we must become lifelong students of finance, character, and leadership. And beyond that, we must pass on these lessons to those who will inherit what we leave behind. It brings to mind the ancient wisdom of Aristotle, who said, "Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all." When we educate, not just on numbers, but on values and purpose, we prepare the next generation to steward wealth wisely. The fortune you build is only as strong as the education you pass along. When you think about wealth this way, accumulation becomes a byproduct, not the goal. The focus shifts to continuous learning, growth, and teaching. Educate yourself, then educate others, because knowledge is the true currency that compounds beyond money and time. This is how wealth lives on, long after your time here is ended. There's a profound truth that time is the most loyal business partner you will ever have, silent, patient, and relentless. When you learn to harness time instead of racing against it, you unlock a power few ever truly grasp. I remember early in my life watching a farmer plant seeds. He didn't rush the process. He understood that growth happens on its own schedule. Wealth works the same way. It's not about quick wins or instant gratification. It's about commitment over the long haul, trusting that every small, consistent effort compounds into something magnificent. This reminds me of the saying from Benjamin Franklin, "Time is money." But I want you to hear it deeper than that. Time isn't just money. It's the soil in which your money grows. When you invest wisely today, giving your money room and time to grow, you're not just building wealth, you're building legacy. But that can only happen when you start early, stay patient, and resist the temptation to pull out too soon. I've met countless people who wanted wealth overnight, who treated their finances like a race rather than a journey. The result? They ended up with little to show for it. But those who commit to the slow, steady process, whether through saving, investing, or learning, discover the incredible multiplier effect of time. Compound interest, for example, isn't just a financial term. It's a metaphor for life's greatest rewards that unfold only with patience and persistence. So, let time become your silent partner. Respect its pace. Align your habits to its rhythm. Because when you do, wealth becomes not just a goal, but an inevitable outcome, extending far beyond your own lifetime. Every bit of wealth you build is like a fortress, strong, valuable, but vulnerable if left unguarded. In my early years, I witnessed how a single mistake could crumble years of hard work. A friend of mine built a successful business from nothing, yet he neglected to protect it properly. When a sudden market change hit, or a careless contract was signed, years of effort threatened to vanish overnight. That moment taught me a lesson many overlook. Building wealth is only half the battle. Safeguarding it is equally vital. The great statesman Cicero once said, The safety of the people shall be the highest law. Apply that to your wealth. Treat it with the seriousness it deserves. Legal protections, insurance, diversified investments, all these act as your fortress walls, shielding your assets from storms you can't predict. You wouldn't leave your home unlocked at night, so why leave your financial future exposed? But protection is not just about defense. It's about preserving the legacy you intend to leave behind. Too often, wealth is lost not to outside forces, but through carelessness and lack of planning. In my own experience, I saw families torn apart over inheritance disputes or lack of clear direction. It's essential to plan your estate, to communicate your intentions clearly, and to involve trusted advisors who will honor your vision. The fortress you build today ensures that the wealth you create doesn't slip through your fingers tomorrow. It stands firm not just for you, but for the generations who follow. Guard it wisely, and your efforts will live on long after you're gone. Money, when treated wisely, is more than just a tool. It becomes a tireless worker, earning for you even while you rest. I've often reflected on the stories of those who labored endlessly but never saw their wealth grow because they were trapped in the grind, exchanging time directly for dollars. It's a lesson I learned firsthand, watching a relative work from dawn until dusk with little to show beyond exhaustion. True wealth isn't built by how hard you work, but by how smart you put your money to work. The philosopher Seneca once reminded us, time discovers truth. Just as time reveals what endures, it also magnifies the power of money when it's invested wisely. When you invest with intention, whether in a business, real estate, or other ventures, your money compounds, growing silently in the background, like a seed sprouting roots beneath the soil. It requires patience, sure, but the rewards are profound. Consider the farmer who plants a field. He does the work of tilling, sowing, and watering, but once the crop grows, the harvest is larger than the effort he alone put in. Your money can behave the same way working in your stead, creating value and opportunity beyond what your own hands can produce. This is the path to freedom, where your money supports your life and your legacy, not the other way around. You don't want to be a slave to your paycheck, but the master of your resources. Let your money labor with diligence and persistence, and you'll find that it can achieve what years of hard labor alone never could. Ambition is a powerful flame. It fuels desire and ignites action, but without vision, it can burn out quickly, leaving nothing but smoke. I've seen many chase success with fierce energy, only to lose their way because they lacked a clear picture of where they wanted to go. Vision, unlike ambition alone, is the map that guides your steps over the long journey of wealth building. It is the ability to see beyond today's gains and to imagine a future that your efforts will shape long after you are gone. In my own life, I remember the difference between working just to earn and working with purpose. Early on, I chased opportunities that promised quick returns, only to realize that wealth that outlives you requires patience and foresight. A farmer doesn't plant seeds expecting to harvest the very next day he plants, with the season in mind, trusting that the rains will come and the sun will shine at the right time. Your wealth building must be the summer rooted in a vision that stretches beyond the immediate. As the great Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Building wealth without vision is like setting sail without a destination. You'll drift aimlessly, wasting time and resources. But when your vision is clear, every decision becomes deliberate. You build not just assets, but a legacy that carries your values, your hopes, and your purpose into the future. So, let your ambition be fueled by vision. Let your daily efforts align with a grander design. Because wealth that outlives you is not merely the sum of your earnings, it's the lasting imprint of a life lived with clarity and intention. As we come to the close of this conversation about building wealth that truly outlives you, remember this: wealth is not just about numbers in a bank account or the possessions you accumulate. True wealth is the legacy you create, the wisdom you pass on, the opportunities you plant, and the lives you touch long after you've left this world. It begins with your choices today, the discipline you practice, the vision you hold, and the courage to protect and grow what you build. Don't wait for tomorrow or some perfect moment to start. The seeds of lasting wealth are planted in the decisions you make right now. Be intentional with your money, your time, and your knowledge. Educate yourself continuously. Let patience guide your actions. And always build with the future in mind, not just the present. Remember, the greatest gift you can leave behind is not just dollars, but a framework of values, habits, and wisdom that empowers generations to come. So here's your call to action. Begin today. Take a step, however small, toward mastering your finances, sharpening your discipline, and shaping a vision that stretches beyond your lifetime. Your wealth can be more than a fleeting success. It can become a lasting legacy. Make it so.